Alright, today we're going to talk about how to solve two-step equations. We've been working a lot with one steps, making sure that we're good to go. So just like normal, let's go ahead and title our page. So I'm going to write up here, it is going to be solving two-step equations. Underline what we have. We're going to do a problem of the day, so our pod. And go ahead and fold your paper into 4 parts. So fold it in half. And fold it in half the other way. It's in your notebook. Remember, you can just draw lines. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and draw my lines in so you can see what it looks like. And draw a line down here. And remember, we always have our problem. Okay, and then it's going to be our plan. We're going to do work. And then we're going to do a check and write our answer out as well. Alright, so let's look at our problem. If you are following along in the textbook, it is going to be on, let's see, page 170, number 39. I'll put it underneath the document camera in case you don't have a textbook. Alright, so it says, Ron was checking his expenses and found that in 8 visits to the barber shop, he had spent $143 for haircuts. Of the amount, $15 was tips. Okay, so what we're trying to figure out in the end is how much did he pay for each haircut before the tip. Alright, so let's write down some of this information. Alright, so we're going to write down that Dwayne, okay, spent $143 on, it looks like we had 8 haircuts, okay, and he gave $15 in tips overall. And it looks like we were trying to find, I'll write this out, how much does Dwayne pay for each haircut before the tip? Okay, so we're going to think about how to solve this. Kind of complicated, so why don't you take a moment, talk to people around you if you're someone else, think about a plan, and write down an idea that you could have to figure this out. Alright, we've been learning about equations, so I'm guessing that my plan is probably going to have to include something about writing an equation. Okay. Now, I don't really know exactly how that equation is going to be written maybe yet, or maybe you do, so maybe you have an idea. It says before the tip, so I know that when I'm working through it, I'm going to need to take away the tip, oops, from the total amount. But if I am going to write an equation, I'm probably going to want to have equivalent like items on each side of my equation. So I know when I set it up, I know it's going to equal 143. I have to think about this side here. What really added up to his $143 that he spent? We know he had 8 haircuts. We know he had $15 in tips. So that's going to be part of it. But I'm not really quite sure maybe yet how that's all going to work into my equation. If you do, you could maybe go ahead and write down what you think the equation might be. And then we will solve it afterwards, but we'll come back to that. Alright, so let's go ahead and do some work with solving equations. Woohoo! Getting on to the fun stuff. Alright, so go ahead and go over to your notes. And I'm going to do this paper a little bit differently because of the way our notes are structured today. So we're still going to write down notes. Okay. And I'm going to actually do these in groups of 3. So, or actually, you know what? Let's see what's going to make the most sense for what we're doing. Yeah, I think I'm going to just do it in groups of 3. So let's go ahead and just fold our paper. We're not going to fold in half. We're just going to fold it like we're putting it in an envelope. So into thirds. Okay. So I'm not going to have any line down the center. I'm just going to have a line across and then another line across down here. And you'll see how it looks. If you don't know how to divide your paper up, don't worry about it. We're going to work through 3 problems. Okay, so example 1. And our instructions are going to be solve each equation and check your solution. Okay, so example 1 is going to be x over 5 plus 4 equals 14. Okay, now when you look at this, you'll see that it's actually more than one step. We have addition and we have division going on. Now when you think about this, you need to think about working backwards through it to figure out what x is. So if we had done this, if we knew what x was, if we'd done order of operations, you would have divided first and then added, right? Okay, so if we're working backwards, you'd say, okay, we need to first get rid of this addition. Okay, we're going the opposite direction with the order of operations. So you need to write that up here, the PEMDAS. We're now working backwards to figure out what x was. So we're going to do our addition and subtraction, in this case here first. Okay, so we're going to subtract 4 on both sides. If it helps you, draw a line down the center. 14 minus 4 is 10. 4's get crossed out. So I'm left with x over 5 equals 10. Okay. I need to solve for x, so now I'm going to deal with my division. Opposite of dividing is to multiply both sides by 5. 5's get crossed out. So x equals 50. Okay. You need to show a check before you actually say this is my final answer. So I'm going to go ahead and do this on the other side. Get a check in here. Okay. So I'm going to plug it back in. So 50 divided by 5 plus 4 equals 14. So now we're going to do order of operations, right? So 50 divided by 5 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. So my answer does work. Okay. All right, let's look at another example. Make it a little bit more challenging, maybe. I think we're going to wait. We'll do one more that's a little bit simpler, and then we'll give you one that's more difficult. All right, so example 2. We're going to have 2k minus 7 equals 23. Okay. Now, when you think about this problem, again, remember, we're working backwards. Okay. So if we did know the value for k, we would multiply first and then minus 7. But since we're working backwards, we're going to deal with this minus 7 first. Okay. So the opposite of adding or subtracting 7 is to add 7 to both sides. 23 plus 7 is 30. The 7's get crossed out. We're left with 2k equals 30. Now you have to think about, okay, it's being multiplied, so it's the opposite of multiplication. Yep, you got to divide both sides by 2. So k equals 30 divided by 2 is 15. Okay, so let's do a quick check. Make sure that this actually holds true before we confirm this as our answer. And I'll plug it in for the spot of k. So 2 times 15 minus 7. We're going to ask, does it actually equal 23? 2 times 15 is 30. Minus 7 equals 23. 30 minus 7 is indeed 23. So we know that our answer is correct. Okay. All right, last example, and then you're going to do some on your own. And then we'll come back and check. So example number 3. Here we're going to have, this was a little bit tricky. We have h minus 7 over 2.5 equals 10. Okay. Now if you think about this problem a little bit, if you knew what h was, you would actually be subtracting 7 first. It's almost like this is in parentheses, so I might add that in, and then we'd be dividing by 2.5. Okay, so if we're working backwards, think about what we want to get rid of first. Yep, you're right. We're going to want to get rid of the 2.5. What I do to one side, I need to do to the other side. Oh, and I'm sorry, guys. Can you add in, I know, I'm making this more complicated. Add in a negative 10 here, sorry. So what's going to end up happening is the 2.5s on the left get crossed out. We have h minus 7, negative 10 times 2.5. It's going to be negative 25. We're almost there, actually. We need to just get rid of that minus 7. So I'm going to add 7 and add 7. Now, negative 25 plus 7, remember those are different signs, so it's really like we're subtracting and keeping the sign of the bigger number. So 25 minus 7 is going to be 18. We keep a negative, so h equals negative 18. We'll do a check over here. Okay, so we're going to plug it back in. We're going to say h is going to have negative 18 minus 7 divided by 2.5. Does that equal negative 10? Alright, so remember when we subtract, we really are adding the opposite. So it's going to be negative 18 plus negative 7 over 2.5. Does it equal negative 10? So same sign, so we're going to add them up. 18 plus 7 is 25, and it's a negative 25 divided by 2.5. If you grab your calculator, you are going to end up noticing that you get negative 10 on both sides. So our answer h equals negative 18 is correct. All right, let me give you 3 problems that you're going to work on your own, and we'll come back to those in a moment. You take your next sheet of paper, I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to divide it up into thirds. And you can, if you don't know what's really going on here, that's fine. You're just going to have 3 problems on the paper. So divide it up into thirds here. Divide it up into thirds. Okay, so these are the your term problems. So letter A is going to be 11 plus 9v equals 119. Take a moment, make sure you have that down correctly. Okay, next one's going to be letter B is a over 8 minus 5.2 equals 3. And letter C is going to be b plus 4 over 7 equals 6. Okay, so I'll show you those one more time, just in case you want to check you have them down correctly. And go ahead and move on to the next video once you have actually completed these problems.